All right, we're here at VKet with VRCDJLIVE, and we're just bringing on a bunch of guests here for the remainder of the weekend for VKet, and it's kind of weird how it's kind of ending all of a sudden. You know, I feel like just the other day we were getting together and we were just getting really excited about the event, but it just seems like, you know, within those 2 weeks, those events just kind of creep on through. But you know what, we're here, we still got a couple more days left of the VKet showcase, and of course, if you'd like to join us in here or even want to experience yourself, go ahead and go on to VRChat.com, sign up, or even if you have a VRChat account, come on in, because you still have plenty of things to experience, lots of different exhibits, lots of different things for avatars, as well as music with Music VKet, and of course, VKet and VRChat really can't be done without some of their amazing users on the program, and that's why we're here today to kind of showcase a lot of these talents and upcoming talents that we see on the day-to-days. And actually joining us here, we kind of ran into each other a couple of weeks ago. I want to introduce everybody here to the VRC DJ Live remote stage to Ghost Quartz. Ghost, good to have you here on the program.
Yeah, I'm glad to be on. Thanks for having me on.
You know, it's kind of interesting for me, as well as for me being the host on VRC DJ Live. Occasionally, I do kind of rummage through YouTube and YouTube content about VRChat, and you know, it's such a shock to me about how much content is on YouTube about VRChat, as well as you know, stuff that's really positive for the community, and then you have stuff that's like really negative and just very like clickbaity for the community. But what I find interesting about your content is like all of it is fantastic. All of your content is great, and it showcases a lot of different elements about VRChat that we need to kind of get to know. So for the people at home, why don't you go ahead and just kind of give us a little bit of a rundown about some of the content that you make, and kind of like where you even got started with that.
Okay, yeah, so I'm Ghost Quartz, and I make YouTube videos about virtual reality, mostly focusing on VRChat and documentaries about VRChat, different communities. I kind of go all over the place with it. Funny enough, I wanted to make videos like forever, like on VRChat, and I always kind of self-doubted myself, and then one day I was like, you know what? Like, I'm just gonna go for it. And as soon as I did it, I felt so much joy, and I was like, because I've always been so curious about all these different communities, because I've always kind of isolated myself in a bubble. Once VRChat blew up, I isolated myself with my friend group. And one day I kind of looked around and noticed how big VRChat really became, and how many different communities and awesome things were going on. And all I wanted to do was learn more. And that's kind of how I really got started with this. So I make documentaries about everything. And I always try to keep a bit of a positive light, because like you were saying, you can kind of find, you know, everything. There is a lot of drama stuff and whatnot, and I always want to stay really far away from that kind of stuff, because I mean, at the end of the day, I'm just looking for pretty much like good vibes. Like this is all the good stuff about VRChat. There's enough people that talk about, you know, what they think is downsides and stuff like that, but I like to see the upsides, the communities, and that's kind of what I do.
So you're saying that you're having a little bit of some passion for making either documentaries or even YouTube content. Where did all of that kind of stem? Was that because of VRChat, or did you kind of learn about, be like, I want to talk about this like historically for something?
So actually, like, they're all privated, of course, but like I've always made videos growing up. I've always been on like an entertainer side, where I wanted to make either people laugh or feel good, stuff like that. I mean, I used to be in a band, but I always made like videos. Like, entertainment was always my favorite thing to do. And when I started VRChat, I really wanted to make videos, but I was like kind of scared. Like, you know, there was already people like Nags and stuff that were kind of like making videos and stuff. And then at the time I was like, well, what can I really do that's, you know, special and stuff? And like I said, mostly it was self-doubt. Like, oh, I can't make videos and stuff anymore, blah, blah, blah. And, but what really piqued my interest was, you know, once I really seen what was out there in VRChat, like all the different communities, like the DJ stuff, everything, the party scene. I mean, there's so much on VRChat. You got role play groups, and it just really peaked. And I wanted to simultaneously learn about communities myself while showing others the communities as well.
It's funny that you brought up nags because again, we were kind of having a little bit of a talk before we even went live here, and get the show on the road about nostalgic times and kind of going back in the day. When did you actually come into VR?
So it was October 2017, and I remember I was just sitting there. I played a lot of like Gmod, and all of a sudden I stumbled upon a VRChat video. And I was like, whoa, what is this? And for the longest time, I didn't know you could even play it in desktop. So like for like 2 weeks or so, I just watched like videos. I was like, oh, this is so cool. And I just started watching Nags. He only had like a few videos. And I was like, wait, this is sick. I was like, oh my God, you can get in desktop. So after like the first month, I got VR. But yeah, so October 28th, I think is actually like my legitimate starting date in 2017.
What was your take on the like the Uganda Knuckles, or maybe even like Kitty Parade? Because that kind of was the hot time, the hot topics of the era.
After.
Yeah.
So when I first joined, it was like the concurrent cap was like every day was like 300 people, and it was a very small bubble, and I joined right before it started just growing and growing and growing. And I remember I mean, oddly enough, I was like really like I was kind of annoyed with the like Uganda Knuckles. I found it funny, but I was like, oh my gosh, they're everywhere. Like you could not escape the meme. And but like the Kitty Parade stuff like that, I thought it was all really awesome. Even the Uganda Knuckles, it was just so plastered everywhere. I was like, whoa. It all happened really fast because I got there, and like I would say a month or so later is kind of like when the Uganda Knuckles and all that memes started popping up and stuff, and it was just like, whoa, this game changed quick. From there, it's only excelled.
And also too, like nowadays, like having a lot of the meme culture around it's not a matter of the memes going away. I think a lot of people have brought that to life, saying like, oh, meme culture's done. Well, if you meme, then it's not as big as it used to be. And it's even funnier now because the way that we keep talking about the newer kids and the newer users that come in here, we kind of bring back those nostalgic times. And it's either A, they don't want to hear it, or we tell them all these horror stories about all the things that had happened, even to the point where they don't even want to be a part of it anymore. But do you kind of think that like the newer kids that you kind of interact with, I keep referring to them as newer kids, they're not kids, but like just newer users that come in here, do you think that they would have had to find an interest of nostalgia times, or even how it used to be back in the day, like recently?
Yeah, I often find people feel very annoyed when you talk about how good the times used to be. And I mean, but it was magical. Like, there's something so nice about when a community is small in the beginning and it's so close knit, and you kind of meet everybody, everybody that pretty much plays the game and stuff. And I think there was less stuff to do back then, but it was all like there was the unknown. So it was such an adventure back in the day. And I think any of them that could go back and do it, I think they would have a great time too. And VRChat's become so much more, but yeah, the past was magical. And I mean, I don't like to shill it too much or anything, because I know how people get upset with it, but I do miss those days because they were good times. But even now, like this, we're constantly making new good times that we'll talk about in the future. Hey, you remember back in 2024, stuff like that. So
yeah, it's really unique, especially with the videos that you create too. You're always forward moving, and a lot of the times you keep focusing on the latest, greatest technology, as well as kind of putting a little bit more of a focus in on a lot of those groups that are kind of emerging and becoming this big blossom thing. And especially with the VR DJ community too, like that was obviously one of the videos that caught my attention to a lot of your content. So the fact that, the DJ community is starting to kind of bloom and blossom, it really needs that type of attention on YouTube. So when it comes to building newer content and getting a better idea of the YouTube videos that you are looking to create, do you get that kind of cheeky content from people being like, oh, I don't want to hear about nostalgia times, I want to hear about something cool or neat? Or is there kind of a uneven balance or an even balance based on that?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's a bit of a mixture, because feel like everybody, like including myself, tries to hit that nostalgia, like for people. But it's tough because you try to hit the nostalgia of like the past, and it's like, oh wait, that was such a small circle of people. So you bring up certain things, a lot of like new people that come to VRChat, which there's now tens of thousands, technically 100,000, users over, and most of them don't know anything about the past. Like they don't, they're not really like, you could bring up like, oh, how to custom avatar, stuff like that, and they'd be like, what? So I feel like a lot of new users are kind of focused on the now, I find, and but I always love to kind of throw back to like the start.
It's interesting too, especially because people in my community that haven't even stepped in here, they're infatuated with these avatars, especially with in the DJ scene. You got a lot of those 8K, like smooth
Yeah.
poly textures and all these particle effects and stuff like that. And they'll even approach me and just be like, "Rob, you know a little bit about Blender work or Unity work. Why don't you show us?" And I'm just like. Those days are so far. Like, yeah, like I would assume that there's a lot of people in the game now that will just proactively go and talk to a world builder or an avatar builder because they know exactly what to do, especially with some newer models. And even we'll get into some more VKet stuff too, especially the models that we've seen in here. But it seems like nowadays, a lot of the users that come in here, it doesn't even seem like they want that's a little hard for me to say, but like it doesn't seem that they have the same drive and passion as we used to back in the day for creating worlds or avatars, because it does seem kind of easier to just pay a guy to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with that. And the big thing from the past to now, I mean, everyone wants to be their own original avatar, but in the past, there were avatars, but it felt a bit more limited, and we had it hard, like back in the day. There wasn't all these plugins and awesome things now that do make it easier. So, and I still do it the hard way just because I refuse to learn the new way stuff, so I make it harder on myself every time I make or update an avatar. But yeah, I feel like a lot of new users, that's the thing, right? You go on Booth, you can find all these awesome avatars. You go on Gumroad, sites like that, you can find all these ready to upload. You're in. Some people might go as far as to maybe just change some textures. And yeah, I mean, and now they even make outfits for avatars. And there's thousands of public worlds with millions of avatars to choose from. So I feel like that's where it kind of like, well, I don't have to do all this work. I'm not a dev.
Yeah,
I'm just gonna take this avatar. This is mine.
It is something else, definitely. And actually, just recently, me and a couple of friends who are doing collab streaming, we went through a lot of these VKet worlds, and again, some of the DJs. Man, I don't want to be like, oh, they're too young to understand, but they kind of are. I had a friend who is in the DJ scene who kind of started DJing at the beginning of the year. So everything in 2024 just led into great success. But even when we brought up the fact that VKet was rolling around, and like they even approached me being like, why would I be interested in this sort of stuff? I don't make Blender stuff. I don't make Unity stuff. And I'm just like, it's easy for you to understand, I guess, but it'd also be easier to get an idea of what your character can wear, or even some of the new innovations that a lot of people be coming out with. And
Yeah.
Just like you were saying, going on Booth or Gumroad and being able to see how accessible having a lot of those accessories are nowadays. And even I keep hearing from my avatar creators that matching weights on Blender is so much easier now, as opposed to painting the weight on. You could just kind of slap it on, and I'm just like, what is this magic? Are you kidding me? Like, I wish this was back in the day where we had to be like pulling out our hair to try to figure it out. But kind of looking at, because obviously you have been in the game. We're gonna get back into more YouTube stuff in a little bit, but I want to ask your opinion on this VKet compared to some of the other VKets that you may have enjoyed. Do you think that there was a lot more in this VKet this year than probably some years that you've been to it before?
Okay, so I mean, it's gonna be kind of like well, I knew you were gonna say that type moment, but the Starship Orchestra was just so cool. I that one and the circus are my two favorites right now, because I mean, I'm huge on sci-fi. I always try to get some sort of sci-fi outfit nowadays. And yeah, I mean, I was just blown away. And I think there was like, for some reason, I only faintly remember part one last year, but there's always been really cool VCat worlds that like blew my mind and stuff when I look at them because they're so vast and they're so full of life and they're awesome. But yeah, just getting on those spaceships and stuff and everything for the orchestra map, Starship Orchestra, like yeah, it's just I don't know. I feel like they really went all out this year, and it's been really cool. And I'm really excited to explore more of these maps.
Have you had any other time to kind of reach out to any of the events that have been going on this weekend? Because I know there've been a lot of different like DJ events to actual promotional. Like I know our friends at Ministry Promotions, they had a big like under the big top circus event with all sorts of acts and dancers and stuff. Have you ever been able to see any of that this past couple of weeks?
Unfortunately, not really. Major issue for me is the current job I have. I work such like peak when everybody's doing stuff hours, and like this weekend as well. I'm sure there's tons of awesome stuff going on, and I won't be able to see it just because celebrating Christmas on the weekend with family and like an early type Christmas thing, and yeah, I mean, kind of locked myself into other plans like people's birthdays and stuff. I've been kind of looking at some of the events through like streams, like midnight and stuff like them, and yeah, it's been pretty cool. I wish I could go to more. Hopefully, maybe next year I can find a way to free up some time because I would love to be a part or just even attend these events.
It's kind of a shock. It's a little bit shocking, especially for me, because we were talking with Lun, who helps out with Hickey and helps out with VKet too. I'm sure everybody knows who Lun is at this time. And the fact that he's even like reaching out to me, just being like, Rob, why don't you come out to Japan for VKet Real? And I'm like, with what money, my guy? Like, for real? Like, you want to try to get me out there to do something? Like, you got to help me out a little bit. But also too, like, I find it super fascinating just the fact that like, I think from a Western standpoint, from some people that were in America, we get the opportunity to kind of mingle with Japanese culture and understanding a lot of the things that they're interested in, and then the vice versa for them to be interested in what we've got going on here, and just its nice little melting pot. And I feel like just this past year alone has been really inventive and eventful when it comes to that sort of collaboration, because even within the collab streamers, we have opportunities to talk with Japanese influencers and Japanese ambassadors. And what's so scary, I'll even say it's scary, it's a little scary, is getting lost in translation with them, because they seem like they're so interested and they want to talk and they want to know more about us as much as we want to know about them. But I also feel a little hesitant myself, trying to understand Japanese cultures and Japanese influence without it seeming like, you know, you're messing up or you're making fun of the way that they talk or
Right.
whatever. Give us a little bit of your take on that. Like, do you find that you're more interested in Japanese cultures by coming to VCat? Do you think you should go to Japan at some point in time, or?
I will say it's always been a far dream, but it's always been a lifetime dream to go to Japan. You know, because we're from Florida, but it is so expensive, just the flight alone from here all the way over there. I've always been interested. I dabbled in a little bit of Japanese, but then I kind of told myself, maybe I don't have the time for that. Maybe one day. But yeah, I think Japan's awesome. They got so much great people there, and it's so cool to see the communities kind of come together. And yeah, I mean, I would love to. I kind of want to aim to actually go to VCat Real. Maybe next winter VCat, or because they do the winter one Real as well, right?
Yeah, they're having it. Well, they're having
they
it.
do the summer.
Yeah, it's like the 20th through the 22nd. And even though, while it would be really nice to go out there, I don't know, like you were saying, Christmas is around the corner. Like, you know, I can't just be coming in after going to Japan and be like, hey guys, Merry Christmas, I was just out in Japan. But, you know, and they are starting to do that. And again, it's so fascinating just to kind of sit here and talk about it, especially now, because even with during the Christmas time, we're going to be seeing an influx of new headsets and new hardware, and a lot more people coming in. And again, we keep talking about how amazing VKet is in general, but just having the general public come in and kind of just see what's going on, as opposed to hearing about the metaverse from Mark Zuckerberg's team. You know what I mean? So,
Right.
even getting those people involved and seeing all the amazing things in here. You were just saying how this was your first time in here and you saw some dragons flying around and you had no idea what was going on with that, but it was very intense to kind of experience that. So when it comes to VKet, and again VKet Real, it's just a matter of like how much do you really think that the VRChat community is going to continue to swell with this collaborations? You know, it's not really swell, but just grow. Just the fact that we are introducing other cultures and we're kind of all melding together.
Yeah, I mean, I think just even from, I can't think of the exact year VKet started, but from that then to now, it is like a noticeable difference in the amount of people that are interested, the amount of people that know about it, the amount of people that talk about it. You find a lot more people now. It's pretty common. It's a common thing for most VR chatters, I feel like, know what VKet is at this point, because, you know, it happens twice a year. And then they have the, music VKet and the comics and stuff. And it's becoming so big, and it's almost like a staple of VRChat now. Like, people are excited. I talk about it all the time with my friends and stuff, and I hear them talk about it. I'm like, man, I can't wait for the next VKet. I'm like, it's just fun because it feels like you're just, it kind of gives like the vibes of like going to the mall back in the day with the, with the fellas and just seeing all this cool stuff. But you get to see so much more and so much awesome stuff. And yeah, it's really cool to see all the communities from everywhere in the world coming together and putting something like this together and being a part. It's just awesome.
Now, kind of getting a little bit back about your YouTube series and a lot of the things that you produce on YouTube. And dare I say, we even talk about the short format, like TikTok and YouTube Shorts. I mean, now is the time definitely to start talking about that. But I know we got to know each other a couple of weeks ago because of the collab meetup. And
right.
and while you were there with some friends, talk to me about how that process was for you to be there and have us kind of go down the gambit of all the things that we've done, comparable to like having them on maybe a next episode on YouTube for you, or even further collaboration or network.
Wait, ask that again?
So when we were hanging out a couple of weeks ago and we were kind of hobnobbing with a lot of the collab streamers who, it seemed like every person that was there had a thing going on, whether it was our friends from PJKT or, again, me from being the guy from Drinking Night or even some more Japanese inspired content creators, and getting to know them a little bit better. Has networking been a little bit easier for you, especially with the content that you put on YouTube?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's so odd. I feel like I don't have too many like content friends, and I partially feel like it's because the content I produce doesn't really have enough like collaboration benefit. Like when you make documentaries about where I'm not trying to focus on me at all, you know what I mean? I'm focusing on communities. It's really hard for me to, because I would love to collaborate, but it's hard to say, hey, you want to be in this video? And we're going to be talking about this community, because it just feels like very random. It feels like they're not even getting to collab. But yeah, I have met really great people, and in the future, very near future, I'm going to start making stuff where it's more group orientated, and hopefully I could stream and make videos with a ton of people, because I have had the opportunity to meet a ton of great creators, and they all seem awesome, and I would love to collaborate with them.
Have you been seeing any?
It's definitely become easier.
Yeah, I mean it's really neat now, especially having something like VKet, where we have a bunch of people that do a specific thing, and just like just as we met at the bar, it is kind of got that weird feeling of just being like, oh, wait a minute, you're that guy, and I think I remember ended up saying this to somebody recently of just like, it doesn't matter how important you are or how popular people say you are. That popular person is also going goo goo gaga over someone else who could be popular, and be able to have a bad misconnection because they're just like, oh, I don't know how to say hi to them, and I don't know how to hang out, and I don't know if they want to do stuff with me, or it's all that sort of stuff. But it's such a breath of fresh air. Having VKet and Hickey, as well as Lun and his community, be able to just like shove us all in a room and just be like, I don't care what all drama is. We're all here and we're hanging out. We all do the same thing. We're all going to be friends.
Yeah, I will say I physically pogged because I don't have like nameplates on at all, like ever and stuff. And I was kind of like looking around the room and I seen your name and I was like, I like physically pogged. I was like, "Yo, it's Rob Roman," and just because like, dude, my buddies and I, we used to, especially back in the day, just go to like Trap Haven and stuff like that all the time, and like, you'd always do that. You're in the mix with Rob Roman's voice, and like, I'm sure you hear that all the time. People coming up to you and saying it.
There's like way
awesome.
too many.
Like, yo, it's him.
Way too many stories based on that, but it's gotten better. I would assume, yeah. But I'm hoping that you get that type of success too. I mean, it's a quirky way of saying that, especially because like you make YouTube videos and just the YouTube. I would just say the market of the YouTube VRChat videos is kind of difficult to kind of break into, especially nowadays. You do have some much larger creators that put out some really shady business, either clickbait or they're trying to bring you in and then they kind of dodge the answer for like 2 hours or something. And I kind of want to see your take a little bit about that, the scene on YouTube, as far as, because I would assume that putting out positive material is rewarding, but it's difficult for that fat to get up to the surface as opposed to all of the junk underneath.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, like drama content, bait content, it works. It just straight up, flat out works. People love, hearing drama and stuff like that, and whatnot, and yeah, I mean, I can't do it. I would be making videos for all the wrong reasons if I, was like, oh, well, this is what I dislike about what VRChat's secretly doing or whatever, you know what I mean? And the secret worlds of VRChat and all this stuff. And, I mean, the growth I've had, it hasn't been like huge, anything like that, but it's been enough for me. And I do get messages every now and then. Some say you're cringe, but that's okay. I do get some messages though that are like, they really like the positive attitude. They like the kind of like basically drama-free like vibe. And there are other great content creators that are kind of in that same category as me that have been doing it before me, and they're already giants. So it is kind of a little bit tough to grow in that field, I feel like, but yeah, I mean, I just, with everything in me, I could promise you I will always stay away from, drama, stuff like that, or bait and stuff. I mean, the most bait you'll get is sometimes a title, but it still kind of goes towards what I'm actually talking about and stuff. And, I mean, I'm just doing what I enjoy, and, if it ever, grows more than that, then, that'll be awesome. But I really am happy with where it's at right now, and anyone that supports me, I always appreciate it so much, and people are just very kind. And but yeah, I mean, there is some shady stuff that comes out about like VRChat stuff and whatnot, and I'm gonna be honest, I don't even watch them.
I was gonna ask you about that because like one of those things that it happens to me a lot too. Like I'll have a really nice day and I'll get a lot of work done and I'll feel really positive about myself. But just like brain rot is, you go down and you need a moment to just let your brain like drool in the back of your head, and you need to just watch something that will completely like numb everything for a little while. But even that like continues to just get sloppy and mucky and really gross. As you continue to feed into that brain rot, you kind of have to give yourself a little bit of downtime away from that. And I'm gonna ask the question of just like, do you find sometimes that the brain rot wins a little bit, and then you have to check yourself, or because I know you're saying you didn't want to feed into any sort of clickbait, nothing, but like at the same time, like it always seems like low hanging fruit, and you can kind of get away with it sometimes, but how do you weigh in on that?
Yeah, I mean, like brain rot content has never been exactly my thing. I guess I'm just old. But I mean, I do, I do get into it sometimes where I'll watch like shorts and stuff, or like some, stuff where it's like super fast edits and cuts and stuff. And it honestly makes me just feel exhausted. So yeah, I mean, I always try to like, I try to stay away from a lot of that kind of stuff, and especially on like my end. I know for other people, my kind of content is very slow for them, and it's not something that's I guess easily digestible. But I've always been a big fan of like long form content, and and just kind of like seeing what's new, what's cool, and exploring and stuff. Like I like Twice. Twice is, I'm assuming, right?
Yes.
He makes, yeah,
Is
Twice.
he the guy that looks like he's from Lethal Company, where he's in he's got the mask?
He looks like he's from Lethal.
Or am I thinking of someone else? He's got like a bunny
Twice
logo.
Has got like the. I think so. I think I'm the right person too.
I know. I know. I've seen some of
Twice. He's got like the brown hair.
Yeah.
Yeah, and stuff like that, and like all the like their videos and stuff.
He does like half
like
VR, half IRL stuff, right? Where he's in his room, or he's talking about like his face or something. Yeah. I've seen him, sure.
Yeah, and like kind of like longer form like content has always kind of been my like big thing. I make shorts every now and then I'll watch them as well when people put them on like Twitter and stuff like that, and I'm like. Yeah, it's easy to get consumed though by the brain rot. I know what you're talking about though, and but yeah, I try to stay away from it if I can.
So I've been noticing, especially with your type of content, that it is getting a little bit more cinematography, getting it a little bit more fancy with the camera work or some filters or stuff like that. What have you seen that's worked the best for you when you create YouTube? Because for me, like I'm still new to YouTube, and especially with VRCDJLIVE, I'm a music guy. I'm not like some cinematographer. I'm not some dude. I just kind of put the camera up and go. But I'm starting to learn what some of the other people online have been using, and tips and tricks and stuff like that. Have you seen that a lot of your content has been growing with those tips and tricks, or where do you see your content going, like visually, stylistically?
So I will say in my head, my videos look way cooler than they actually come out. And in my head, I always got like a movie almost planned. I'm like, this is how it's going to look and stuff. And at the end of the day, I'm still happy with what I produce. But yeah, I mean, I'm a one-man army, as in like, I come up with what I want to do. I try to record all the shots for edit. Like it just takes so much time. But one thing I always tell myself after every video, and honestly, I kind of took this one from Mr. Beast, but every time I make a video, I'm like, what could I have done better? And then like, I always kind of try to take that with me on the next video. And I'm like, how can I improve this and whatnot? And then sometimes I will watch people that are like, in a similar field as me, and like, oh, what do they do that I might think is cool? And what kind of spin can I put on it? And, yeah, so like camera work and stuff like that. There's like 2 different cameras right now. Can't remember what both of them are called, but they both do the same thing, where basically you could put them on a track and stuff. You can get some really cool shots and stuff, and so I'm always looking out for stuff like that too, to where, because like to the common watcher and stuff, they're not really looking at all that kind of stuff. They just see like all these cinematics and stuff, and they're like, oh, that's cool. I always want to get way better with stuff like that, so I'm constantly trying to. And yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff out there, especially like if you follow like really, creators, asset creators, stuff like that on like Twitter and stuff. They're like, people are constantly coming out with cool stuff for the cameras to really do it. But yeah, I mean, I'm trying every video to somehow try to improve on something, because I am self-taught, and Yeah, I mean, like I said, the videos come out cooler in my head than they actually come out, but I'm still happy with them.
Yeah, as long as you make stuff that you enjoy, and then at some point in time you sit and rewatch it and just be happy about it, and that should be plenty. I would only suppose. It's the same thing with me and like DJing and making music. I'll make some music that I really vibe out to, and I'll play it and I'll get that response back, and I'm like, let's go. Like, oh man, I
Yeah.
can't even begin to tell you. Do you what kind of feedback do you get mostly from your subscribers? Is it mostly like, are they interested in VR, or are they in VR, or are they interested in a specific group or topic about VR?
Well, I find I get quite a mixed bag. I actually have a Discord that I don't really promote much because I haven't fully committed to it yet, and I want it to be safe. Because if I ever get like a huge influx of people, right now I don't really have moderators, stuff like that, and but I get kind of a mix of like all different kinds of people. I get people that have never played VR that are interested. I get people um, that play VRChat that think it's cool. Like I said, I have people that I've had a couple people like go out of their way and find me and be like, "Oh, your stuff is cringe," and I'm like, "Oh, thanks." and But yeah, I mean, it's kind of a mixed bag. I feel like most of it has been very supportive, and not even like them intentionally being supportive. Like, they might make a nice comment about how I did something, or oh, I really like this topic, blah blah blah, and it just like people don't understand like the seeing nice stuff said about like something you put a lot of work into. It's just so motivating. And when people say they enjoy my videos, like every now and then I run into someone's like, "Oh, I've watched your videos," and I'm like, "Whoa, that blows my mind." And they're like, "Yeah, I like them." I'm like, "Wait, you do?" and yeah, I mean, I feel like I get a mixed bag though of very curious people, inside and outside of this world, basically.
Do you ever feel a little hesitant that at some point in time people might consider you like a really popular entity? Like a popular influencer, content creator, yada yada.
I don't really get too worried about it just because I would kind of stick to my own little bubble. And I mean, at the end of the day, I'm super human. I'm super shy and everything. And I mean, I've had actually a couple people that were like, "Oh, I thought when I meet you, you're gonna be like Mr. Beast type, like, hey, how's it going?" And like they were like, "I'm very surprised how human you are." And I'm like, "Yeah, I mean, I am a human." But yeah, I mean, yeah, that would be cool if it ever happens one day. But I don't think it's ever really gonna. I don't think it'll scare me, but I don't. I hope it wouldn't change me or anything like that. I want to be me to the end, And but yeah, I mean, you never know what's gonna happen, and yeah, it might get a little weird if I ever got bigger.
I mean, it's bound to happen, I suppose. You never know, because I mean, obviously, this video and us here now is probably going to go up on YouTube as well to kind of showcase your works, and it's not, don't be scared. It's just going to draw some more people over to your content. Oh my gosh, what's the worst that's going to happen? But where do you kind of see the forecast of VRChat content on YouTube? Is it going to get better quicker, or are we still sinking, or what? Where do you think it's headed?
I feel like, and this could be said for many aspects of VRChat, but VRChat is an infinite playground. There is so many different avenues you could take. There's so much untapped stuff, and speaking of which, like that's kind of what's been on my mind a lot. And even looking at like bigger creators that like iShowSpeed or like HiSenet, like I know they're not like VR chatters or anything like that, but like seeing like how massive scale projects and stuff they're doing and stuff, and they're doing stuff that hasn't really been done, it makes me think a lot. And I've been thinking a lot for the past few months. What can I do that's like, what can I do to go beyond what I normally do? And yeah, I think there's just so much different opportunities and out there, and I'm gonna start exploring them as well. And I think we're gonna see some really cool stuff from plenty of people. I feel like next year is gonna be probably a big year too. especially with like persistence and stuff, because that's going to change role play communities and everything. And I think we're going to see some really cool and unique content. Hopefully next year. I think it's going to be big.
I'm going to ask a very complicated question, and it's going to require a
Okay.
lot of brain power. So please, I would love for you to try to think a little bit about this. But obviously, we keep talking about VKet coming around. I believe it's bi-yearly. Obviously, there's a summer one. There will this winter one, of course. And we've even started to kind of go down the avenue of potential, not only VKet Real, but our guests last week were even interested and started to kind of plant the seed to see if we can't get like a VKet on the East Coast as like a convention or an anime convention or something like that. I think it'd be really interesting. The fact that like even like something like with TwitchCon, you know, TwitchCon is always in San Diego. Well, except for that one time in Las Vegas. We don't talk about that, but but at the same time, like, you know, there's been so many people have been speculating, being like, why don't we get TwitchCon to go to New York or Chicago or even Orlando or, you know, some large mecca that that people will, they have the room for. You know, San Diego is great and all, but they really do have to fight up against some other events, and they have to fight up against the train traffic and you know, all that other business, especially hotels. There's not really too many hotels in that area.
Yeah.
So the complicated question I'm going to ask you is, you know, there really isn't as much VKet content on YouTube as I was hoping for, and I would love to see more of. What process would you believe that you would take if you were going to invest some time in creating like a VKet documentary or a VKet movie, or even like showcasing all of the awesome things going on here compared to someone that has no idea what's going on here?
Right. That is a great question. Something like VKet, where it's very massive, and yes, there's tons of people that know about it, but even like someone recently that joined my Discord, they were like, "What's VKet?" And I'm like, "What's VKet?" Well, let me tell you. No. And I feel like if I were to kind of plan something out for VKet, there's two aspects I feel like people want to see. The wow, this is cool, and then that's where I kind of would start, is like showing something like this, like, hey, you know, showing like, oh, you could, you know, like you could fly the ships, you fight the dragons. There's all these cool avatars and booths that people have. And then I feel like the second chapter of it would be, hey, this is the history. This is how VKet started, and you know, this is, you know, the steps it kind of took. Now it's in real life and stuff like that, and it's kind of growing. It's only growing, and I think something like that would be like, it would really get people going and get that wheel going where they're like, oh, I want to be a part of this. This is cool. And that's kind of like, I feel like where I would take the steps. Man, if we got a VKet in the States, I don't think they realize. I feel like more people would go than they think. Is my thing. I feel like a lot more people would show up than they probably think, if they're scared to kind of like throw out a new thing like that where it's in the, you know, the States. But I really feel like people would come from other places too, like Canada and all over, and be like, I think they would want to be a part of it.
Especially because, like, for me, the past 2 years, I've been kind of understanding anime and anime conventions, Japanese pop culture stuff. And what I find so fascinating, well, especially for me, because of the fact that these conventions, some of these conventions I perform at are in Alabama. Where's the Japanese culture in Alabama, or even here in Florida? Like, you know, I think the only added place that you can talk Japanese or even learn is by talking with Japanese tourists that go to Disney. You know, I don't know how comfortable they would be feeling on their vacation if we just stroll in and just start talking Japanese to them as if, like, you know, that we've always been talking Japanese in Florida. But just even kind of introducing the anime and the pop culture phenomenon, and on top of that too, I think a little bit about you know, some of the content creators that go to these conventions, the guests that go to these conventions, the special guests that are there, and kind of their role in it all. And for us, especially here in VRChat, we have to kind of hyper focus in on pop culture. And I think that's the one quirky thing that, like, and I keep bringing it up a lot, especially because one of the hottest topics that we continue to talk about on VRC DJ Live is understanding your professional role, and as well as taking your trade and turning it into a profession. There are a lot of people that don't understand the business aspect of it. Nobody understands the next steps that they need to take to get to that professionalism, or even how to define it. And I kind of talk a little bit about it as if, like, if you're going to become a professional clown. Like, if you're going to be a clown, you have to have clown friends. You have to network amongst the clowns to figure out what works, what doesn't work. And are you doing the latest tech in clown technology? Or even, even at tax time, you got to talk to your tax guy saying, what is your business? Oh, I'm a clown. Like, how do you do clown taxes, and how do you, like, all these things. So a lot of the understanding and focus when it comes to the Japanese culture, and just having, again, Lun saying, go to Japan, go out there. And I feel like a lot of us in the States are just like, I'm scared, dude. If I go out there and I get lost in translation, they're going to laugh at me and be like, I'm a stupid American boy. But at the same time, a lot of us really want to have that avenue to get a better understanding, especially where, our community is kind of pumped full of some hot garbage that we find on YouTube.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I agree. Yeah, I definitely feel like it's a scary thought to go somewhere where the culture is different and you don't want to be disrespectful at all, and and you want to learn, but you don't want to embarrass yourself. Nobody wants to embarrass themselves, but mistakes happen and stuff. And yeah, I mean, I would love to one day go to VKet Real, and I hope one day that they would even consider, like, as an example though, if they did VKet in Orlando, you might have Japanese tourists that are coming over that'd be like, oh, they're doing VKet here, and they might go to it as well, and you might even get that nice mixture there as well.
Well, at least let's hope that they don't hear about the shenanigans at Holiday Matsuri, or even MegaCon, with all the partying and all the traffic and all that business too. But it's really fun to kind of get a better understanding about this. But we're sitting here at the VRC DJ Live booth at VKet with Ghost Quartz, who makes some really awesome YouTube content. You should definitely go check out all that sort of stuff, especially if you're interested not only in VKet, but a lot of the community, different groups. And again, you talked about raves and sort of stuff like that. Give us a little takeaway about what you learned about the raves, and seeing that obviously our show is about DJs. I would only assume you don't DJ, not yet.
Yeah, no, I've never DJ'd. What I've learned is I find out more and more friends are really into the party scene. I haven't ever been a huge partier myself, but that even made me more curious. And I had a ton of friends that DJ and stuff, and I wanted to support them, so I started going to it, and I was like, wait, this is this is cool. And I love that it's something where everyone, at least all the events I've ever been to, it's been super, like, good vibes and stuff like that, and that's something that I'm all about. I feed so much off of positive energy, and that's when I was like, okay, I want to learn more, and I kind of want to put together something for this, and get to hear, talk to people and hear what they have to say about it, about their community and stuff. And yeah, it's just, I think it's a very cool thing. I don't think I will ever personally DJ, but I think it's awesome, and it is always awesome to go to those events and stuff and just have a good time, maybe dance or just listen to music, relax. And I think it's an awesome, like, community, and it's such a wide community. There's so many like awesome DJs and stuff, and so many different venues and stuff. And I think it's just awesome. I'm really glad that people agreed to be a part of that video and stuff. They were all really nice people, and I just think it's a great community.
It's really fun to kind of see where VRChat and the communities have been taken ever since back in the day, with a bunch of mirror dwellers, or even going to lag-free box to test out your particles, or how large your avatar can get, comparable to actually going and celebrating with the whole community. And I would only think that you would know about the VRC timeline concerning that.
Like VRChat, VRChat timeline for what specifically about like
But for the DJs.
Let
me fill you in.
So I did.
let me fill you in. So we have a member in our community by the name of Woody who has created the VRC timeline, which is an actual website timeline that showcases when all the DJs perform, where the events are happening, how you can get involved, where you can go.
Sick.
And it is just it is fascinating because of how quickly and popular it has gained popularity even in the past year. And just that fact alone, like especially within our research and the things that we've done, he recently put out a post a couple days ago stating that as of 2024 there are 800 clubs that are registered on the site, with 500 of them active with at least one event this year. And
that's insanity. And it's only going to grow.
Yeah. And like, I hate to continuously count my chickens and try to figure things out, but just in my proper terminology of being in here, every time I come into VRChat, I'm always a month behind. Especially with all the cool hip stuff and all the newest latest technology and whatever. But having 500 active clubs, not even counting how many DJs are involved with all those clubs, mind-numbing. So even coming here to do the show and talking about the VKet, and especially again, we're only about a week away until Christmas time. And people getting their hardware and new computers, and even hearing updates from Tupper about how that new user marker continues to rise and they're hitting new goals and stuff. It kind of gets me a little interested on where VRChat is headed even in the next year. It's not even a matter of the next 2 years. What's going to be happening down the road next year with all these new users and the latest technologies and maybe even more events and stuff. So it would be a silly question to ask, but once everyone gets their new technology, what do you think is going to be the next greatest thing?
Ooh, that's really hard to say. I feel like as VRChat gets bigger, they're always looking into ways to make one thing safer for everybody, because the internet is the internet. But they're also constantly coming up with all these cool things. We've got Udon over the past few years, and I've heard they're upgrading that, and we just got persistence and stuff. And every time they kind of take a jump, which has seemingly been every year now, we're kind of taken to that whole next level of like, oh, this is awesome. Like persistence to me, I talk about it so much, but I think it's just huge. Like now we have like a whole Dark Souls world, you know what I mean? And and it saves your data. And I just think, I think as VRChat grows, there's only up basically. They're only going to try to find new ways to innovate and do cool things. I mean, I'm not sure to think of exactly what they might do, but yeah, I mean,
it's also,
if they could find easier ways for people to get their avatars into which people are doing that themselves, but if they could find ways to get people to a more optimized state and expand off that where things feel optimized, because at this point you kind of have to have like a pretty darn good computer to handle VRChat, and not because VRChat itself is heavy, but we're not, not everybody's devs, and you get all these avatars, these worlds and stuff, and they're a bit hefty. So I would love to see some more tools for accessibility, next year to kind of get the ball rolling, where you could have 80, 100, uncap it higher and just still have a good time without, completely hearing your computer scream for help.
Yeah, especially within the DJ community too. Like we have lots of talks about making sure that we let our users know and a lot of our friends know that we're looking for more optimized avatars instead of, it's nice to come in and be silly with some meme avatars, but man, oh man, is it refreshing to get, again, 60, 70 people in there, and either you're in green or medium. You have some people with some really flashy particles, and not all of them know how to use that, and sometimes they're a part of your avatar in real-time lighting and you have no idea how to untoggle it. And again, not to completely like shock you or anything, but we have had a couple people on our shows recently, and we've talked about it. We've talked about raising the cap to 90 because a lot of people are interested in getting more events and getting more people in those events. But and it is something that the VRChat dev team have been kind of slowly working on. And obviously no spoilers here because, you know, we're not about that. But at the same time, like, don't think that they're not testing that. You know, they definitely want to get a higher marking. I forgot who I talked to, but somebody joked about putting together a festival event with 120 people, and I'm like, with what computer? With what hardware? Like, I don't even, my room gets heated every time I'm in here, just kind of vibing, you know, like, so it's weird. It's weird about that sort of thing. But more importantly, like, how much stress would it be for you? Because again, you want to make YouTube content that's relatable. You want to post it pretty quick, as well as any sort of competition. When all of these new latest greatest somethings come out, how quickly do you try to jump at the opportunity to make these styles of videos to post?
Yeah, so I've seemingly missed a lot of like I don't want to say bandwagon or anything, but like when something new comes out and whatnot, I seemingly have missed that mark. And I feel like when something's new and refreshing, like persistence or something, kind of have to jump on it, kind of like, because everybody is going to jump for it. But the good thing is though, is that not everybody's the same. Like, you know, I in the past I was like, oh, I'm too scared to make a video about, you know, example A because, you know, this person's made a video about it. But it's like, well, you know, I feel like I have my own stuff I could say about it as well. And I think that's the cool part. It's like multiple people can make, you know, a new topic comes out, multiple people can talk about it. Someone can talk about it in a more like technical standpoint, like, you know, this is, you know, why it's so cool. And then, you know, like for me, I didn't really talk about persistence in a like that kind of aspect. I didn't break down, you know, all the like how persistence was going to work and stuff. But I talked about, you know, basically the ambitions of it and like the dreams of like what's going to happen with VRChat now that we have it. But there was other YouTubers that I'm sure they released videos about, hey, this is exactly how persistence works and blah blah blah. And yeah, so I feel like there's so many different ways you can tackle something new, but I always think, yeah, it is super important to like kind of jump on it before it's kind of like, oh, people are done hearing about it type thing. You know what I mean? And
I think it's also kind of a good way of looking at it too, that it's not a matter of who's going to get it first, you know, who's going to talk about it first. But I think ultimately for our community, it gives them opportunities to weigh in on all sorts of different opinions on it. I know right now, age verification is such a hot button topic because I think a lot of people go to Twitter and they want to show off that they can get it and they should advocate for it. But then you also have another group really talking about like, they don't want to give away their personal data or their personal information, and they're very vocal about it. And unfortunately for us, there's no common ground on Twitter for us to have a nice conversation about it. We're just going to continue to argue about it to see who's actually right, who's going to be wrong, and stuff like that. And I know I recently was talking a little bit about it, just only because, like, I think the people that actively want to do it are they're being snarky about it by like posting that they've done it. And the people that don't want to do it are throwing them under the bus, just being like that. So it's just a matter of like compromise. For like, I understand you'd be really excited about doing something that you think could be pushing something in the right direction, but you know, you want to be civil about it. You know, you don't want to be too snarky about it. You know, it's kind of like, it's even like the thing of saying like getting they said age verification costs some money to get it done. They didn't say how much it was, but they did say it was going to happen.
Right.
And maybe people don't have the money for that. You know, it's hard for you to be snarky about something being like, well, I had $10. Where's your $10? You know, like,
yeah,
you know, it's bad about that. But as I was saying before, again, I think in your expertise and the things that you do, having all of the relatable videos at everybody's exposure, so that way they can watch and then generate their own opinion on it, as opposed to well, the first person got to it and now no one can touch it. I think everybody should touch it. I think everybody should get that topic out there
Yeah,
and their
absolutely.
opinions on it too. So that's kind of a really big thing to kind of understand, especially when you do look up some VR chat content on YouTube. Don't just be like, hey, I saw one video. Hey, that video got a bajillion views, so I'm just going to believe that. Why don't you get a second opinion based on what you're going to do? Before we get out of here, and I just have a couple more questions. I know it's kind of a nice little short thing, but we only have about an hour to do this show.
Yeah.
And I know one of the hottest topics right now, and again, please bear with me, is the Iceberg of VRChat. I kind of want to see what your opinions about that are, and kind of where even more of those types of videos are going on YouTube.
So I haven't watched it yet. I know which one you're talking about. Are you talking about the specific video?
There is there is
Iceberg?
one where someone was talking about the iceberg of all the different topics that had been kind of going since 2014. But I feel like more people are kind of leaning into that because they want to give their own opinion on an iceberg scenario for VR chat. So it's becoming a more popular YouTube creation sensation.
Yeah. I feel like it's a social game. It's grown so vastly that the concurrent players is like 100,000 a day. And the iceberg type thing is like, yeah, I mean, I feel like VR chat kind of can affect people in a way, and there's all these like super like niche groups of people and stuff like that. But yeah, I always, honestly, I try not to think too much about all that. I know, like, from an outside perspective, like, when people look at VRChat, they're like, oh, you guys are weird. And that's why I kind of try to paint VRChat in a positive light. And it's just my honest view. Like, I don't really, there's things that I obviously dislike about, like, certain things that happen that go on within VRChat and stuff. But I always kind of keep those opinions to myself because, I'm not really big on debating and stuff like that. Like, I have my whole opinion about the age verification as well, but I've always been a little too worried to kind of jump into it because it's my opinion, and I know people are gonna have their own about it. But yeah, in terms of the iceberg, yeah, there really is a lot of layers, but for the most part, I feel like they're good things. So
It's just
I feel like the good outweighs the bad.
I think people are finding things to talk about, and then they're just jumping on a train comparable to the fact that that exists. And I find it funny too because I was looking. Don't think that I'm not disinterested when I'm looking at a video and I see a picture of the drinking night on there and I go, all right, what are they going to, hopefully they don't say anything bad about me. Hopefully they don't say anything bad about Rackshaw. It's just like, all these different things. So I kind of, or like they'll talk about raves and I'm just like, oh, I mean, we're just VRCDJLIVE. Yeah, obviously we want to talk about it. But, but like,
Right.
it's just, it's silly things. And it's funny that I get to watch it. And, again, for us being in this game for such a long time, we do know some of those people that have, kind of ruin their careers and ruin their opportunities here in game, and then they bring them up in the iceberg, and I'm just, or the iceberg, and I'm just like, but that was so many years ago. Who cares? Like it's over. Don't worry about it. But it is again, it's just factual. I guess it's just knowledge people should know at some point in time. We don't want to rewrite history and stuff like that.
Yeah, if they're curious about history and stuff, it's good to have stuff documented. But I mean, like even watching wise, like there's so many of those types of videos out there that I'm like, do I even watch this? Because, like part of me is like, obviously, I feel like everyone gets very curious about it. Like when you see like the dark side of VRChat or something, it's like, whoa. And then I'm like, but the other part is like, I don't care, man. I have my own world within VRChat, and my eyes and like my goggles and stuff, I'm having a good time. All the people I'm with, they're always having a good time and stuff. And we try to keep it positive. I mean, I'm not, I acknowledge that bad stuff does happen, but that's everywhere. This is the internet. It's a huge community, so you kind of get a little bit of everything.
I always feel like brain rot. There's always a brain slug in the brain rot that goes in your brain, and you get brain slugged, I guess. Which again, we all don't want to be a part of. Like, that's just the thing. I wish I could just go on YouTube and just yell at everybody and just be like, stop with the brain rot, like stop with poking the bear. But then they're gonna be like, oh, you're not gonna enjoy there's always gonna be some troll on the internet that's gonna kind of ruin my time, ruining their time. So whatever. You just kind of, and you're right. You should. The moral of the story is you should come in here and you should enjoy yourself and not completely feed into that. We've got VKet. There's some really awesome things that are going on here in VKet. Even a lot of my friends haven't been in here in a while, and I'm just like, you better take care of yourself in VKet because it's going to be gone soon. And then what are you going to do? You're going to complain about going to the Black Cat for the 50th time? Like, what are you doing? Nothing wrong with the Black Cat. I love the Black Cat, but like, you know what I mean? So
yeah.
Before we get on out of here, you want to tell everybody at home where they can find you on the internet?
Yes. So I'm a bit everywhere, and unfortunately, I'm a bit odd with how I've named myself either Ghosty_Quartz or Ghost_Quartz. But you can find me on basically everything. I'm on Twitch, YouTube, X or Twitter, and Blue Sky, all that kind of stuff. But mostly, where you're going to see me for the most part is YouTube, and possibly next year Twitch. And I've got kind of like plans brewing right now on stuff I really want to do next year, and I'm really excited for it. Like I said, I'm kind of gonna try to focus on something that I don't know if it's really been done type stuff, but it's gonna involve like groups and stuff like that. And I kind of go for stuff that I think's enjoyable and try to expand upon with my content. But yeah, those are where you can find me.
But more VRChat content on the Twitch, right? Is that what you're saying? Kind of hinting towards?
Oh yeah. When I start actually streaming, it's gonna be a lot of virtual reality content, mostly VRChat, and same kind of like shenanigan type thing where it's gonna be group focused, and it hasn't been fully planned out yet. But yeah, I've got some big ideas and stuff where the focus is just good times and good vibes, and show the brighter side of things, which is usually what I try to do.
I hope so. That VRChat category on Twitch is really hard to kind of gauge that type of content with the the screens. I don't even go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah, I just looked at it for like the first time in a while, because I'm so used to just watching certain people like Midnight and stuff like that. And we won't get into it, but I did click the tab, and my eyes and my mouth just opened wide, and I was like, whoa.
What do you mean you're not just sitting here in a maid outfit playing chess?
I feel like maybe that's what I should start doing now. Right? But I've got hopefully I can add some a twist onto the whole VRChat category on Twitch. Maybe people will be interested, maybe not, but as long as I'm having fun, I don't really mind too much about how stuff performs anyways. So, but I'll always try to improve it.
Well, there you go. Well, Ghost Quartz, thank you for coming by to the VKet booth and VRCDJLIVE.
I really appreciate you for having me on.